No artist wants to get screwed with the contract, and quite frankly, that's a lot of the fear that everyone has with this business, right? Well, problem is, if you knew where the screw points were in these contracts, then maybe we would feel a lot more comfortable with doing business with everybody else in this business. Even though you shouldn't be going through this, because I don't want to see nobody get bent over a desk here, you know what I'm saying? I've got 7 points that you should be looking for, whether it be in contracts or just in some phrases of how people are talking around you or in the studio or in your creative environments that you should look out for so you can avoid that screwing. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Casey Graham, and this is the Music Money Makeover Show. Music Money Makers, we gotta address damage points right here. Artists get screwed all the time in record deals and agreements, and there are so many points where a good screwing can happen. But this is a matter of how many damage points that artist suffers. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go from at least in these 7 tips. This says 7 tips ain't it, but it's just at least these in this video. I'm gonna go from highest all the way down to the lowest. You may agree that some of them may be equally balanced. That's your feel, but I'm gonna get into some heavy stuff and then we'll lighten it up at the end of the video. Check it out. Additional recordings. Now I'm gonna stay on the record deal for a little while. You'll see the title change. So let's address these additional recordings that a lot of you artists don't really know about. Additional recordings during your album period. This is a tactic used to increase the record label's catalog without having the extra recordings count against your deliverables. A company can misuse these if your album doesn't do well and they need a pickup in momentum, or if they need some momentum before your album drops. Okay, now if this happens, you want to push the additional recorded songs to the main album, or you'll want to have it count against your deliverables. The reason why you want to have this happen is because you don't want to be on the hook for additional expenses. These records cost, you don't have the money to produce them, and the record label in turn gets to acquire these records but still keep you under contract while your deliverables are unfulfilled. So we want to minimize this as much as possible. And a lot of times some artists want to take the chance and say, hey, look, let's do an EP. I just feel really good about it, because they know that the record company will finance it. However, you don't want to get carried away with this. And if you can prevent this, you want to really work on those records to make sure you have some really solid records first before you even enact this, or before the record company chooses to enact this particular part of the deal. Now, the premature exit clause. Listen to this. If the record company does not do its job and your recoupment amount is under 30% plus other metrics involved, then you should add an exit clause to combat negligence and underperformance against the record label. This is to hold their feet to the fire. So in many cases, you may sign with the independent record label and your first album may be a flop, but it's not a flop because it didn't sell. Let's say we recoup under 30%. It flopped because you know, without a shadow of a doubt, you have proof that the record company was negligent in promoting your album. Like they didn't try, and you got receipts to back it up. At that point, this calls for some litigation here, and then you can enact your exit clause. And I feel that this should be there for record labels who don't know what they're doing. No offense to my record label owners, I get you, but at the same time, you're playing with an artist's life and their time and your time as well, and time should not be wasted on inexperience. So this should be in place, artists, so that you don't get screwed and you're sitting in a deal where there is nothing being done properly to promote your records. All right, now we're still at the record deal here. An indie deal with no recording or marketing budget. Hear me out, because I know you're getting ready to get offensive right here, right? Or you're getting offended right now. But sometimes small record labels can't afford an artist advance, and that's okay. Because when I had a small record label, I could not advance the artist nothing. That means less money for you to recoup as an artist, so that's good. However, if the label doesn't have money to produce the product or money to market the product, you're more than likely in for the most wasted time of your life. So in my defense and in my history, I had an artist where I didn't have any money, but I had credit. You all have heard this story on the channel before. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to use the credit. Obviously, I didn't know how to use it, but whatever. I also did not have money to produce the product, but I produced it myself. So that saved money. I engineered, that saved money. I mixed it and I mastered everything myself. The problem came when we didn't have money to market the product or promote, if you will. That's the actual term. When we didn't have money to promote, that means we started spinning our wheels in the streets. And artists, if you're in a situation where you're just getting to know these people, they're signing you because they have a studio, they have money to do some, a little bit of marketing or some promotions, but not enough, but they have everything that they spent on the creative side. This is a sure sign that you're probably going to go nowhere. And if they have a few connections, then they're probably going to shop you to a bigger deal. But if they don't have any connections and no experience, chances are this is the end of the road. All right. And then we're going to have to go back here. So if they have no recording or marketing budget, you might want to press pause for a second or just creatively work with them to see what you come up with without being on paper. Now, wasted time, because that point leads me to this point. Time doesn't wait on anybody, and we're all getting older each day. All right. Time is a significant factor in your deal. It dictates your reasoning and strength to work on certain tasks. However, this isn't a clause. It's not. It's kind of built into the entire deal. But if your record label is wasting time because they don't have the money to keep going, then your exit clause needs to be that much stronger against indie labels who just don't have the budget, which is why I say you got to have this exit clause to combat negligence and underperformance. And then you already know if the record label doesn't have a recording budget, but they got the studio and they don't have much money for a marketing or promotion budget, those are red flags. Don't screw yourself on that deal. Put the exit clause in, because if they're going to waste your time, you need to be able to get out. All right, let's keep going. Now, this is on you, artists. Artists, this is the producer royalty. Artists, whether major or indie, have a habit of being over generous to producers. And it's because they don't know their artist royalty amount and the threshold for paying people a royalty from their audio products, i.e. single or album. Rule of thumb is up to 25% of the artist's royalty is used to pay everybody who requires a royalty. That's a rule of thumb. That's a threshold limit. So don't give your producer a 50% royalty. And I'm going to explain this later in the video. 3% is standard, 4 to 5% plus if you paid less for the beat or your producer is a full rate producer. If you need to pause or rewind to hear this again, listen to it again, but I'm going to explain little bits and pieces of this later in the video. Just don't give your producer a 50% royalty. All right. You can see the full explanation in this video right here that I'm gonna pop on the screen, and away we go to the next slide. Split sheets. I don't do split sheets. Oh boy. When you hear this, you already know something ain't right. So this major screw point is when a producer says, I can't work with anybody who mentions this during the creative process or something along those lines, right? This person is either underwater on their publishing deal and needs a bigger share to make up for their losses with the publishing company, or they're trying to screw you later when there is no memory of what happened. You all are welcome to check out the Master and Publishing Split Sheet on the musicmoneymakeover.com store. It comes with a free walkthrough course, and this does a lot more than just a regular split sheet because it handles the master side as well. Now, you may be asking, when is the right time to address split sheets? Before the session, ask for everyone's PRO information so it's not awkward. This is what I recommend. Also, if it is awkward already, then you know where your potential problem sources are. So you can actually go, if you know this person's government name, or if they have an alias that's in the searchable ASCAP and BMI database that they're using, or if you know some records they produced already that you can find in the database, look for them, find their name, and then take their information down, and then send them an email. Hey, is this your BMI information? Is this your ASCAP information? Just want to make sure I have everything right for when we're done so we can do splits, right? And this is all happening before the process, right? So if you have this information, then they're like, okay, this person's going to handle business. All that awkwardness has already gotten out of the way. All right. It just has. Now, I know there are some times where you might be going in with an A-list producer or whatever. In that case, you might want to just send them your BMI information. Hey, for whenever you get ready to do the splits, here's my information. That puts them on notice that you're serious about doing the stuff, right? Because I know sometimes you may get invited to the session and you need to know if splits will be done because you're not the person controlling the room. So there's just many tactics you can use with that. All right, now how do I know if an indie label has no money? It will say it in the contract. All right. But if they don't send the contract to your lawyer or ask who's your lawyer, so they can send you a copy, you already know what time it is. Why am I saying this? Because the lawyers are supposed to communicate with the lawyers. The indie label has no business sending a contract to you. At least they should not. Now, you can request the contract from your attorney, or your lawyer rather, but the label's lawyer should be sending a contract to the artist's lawyer. That's how you know if this indie label has money. Because if they can afford the attorney, then you already know that they're probably going to be able to have some type of money, connections, and funding to help this process out. Now, where does the money for the additional recordings come from? It comes from the album budget, a discretionary fund, or tacked on as an additional expense. This is why you want to watch how many recordings are requested outside of the album, because I already know in the beginning of the video, in the beginning of the video, you might have been thinking like, man, well, if they can do more recordings, why didn't they just put it in a budget? Well, it's not going to be in a budget, right? They just know that they can afford it. So that's why they put it there as an EP or extra singles. They're not going to tell you that they're going to add more money to your budget or set aside money for those recordings because you may want to attack those recordings. They just don't want it to count against your deliverables, but they can pay for it. You see what I'm saying? You don't want that to happen. All right. So as much as you can, stay away from the additional recordings. Now, I thought I was supposed to give the producer 50% of the song. First off, you're not supposed to give anybody anything. Secondly, song and record are two different terminologies in this business, and any producer who pressures you to give them 50% of the song but means record is totally inexperienced. 50% of the song, which is publishing, is okay, and 50% of the record, which is the master, is definitely not okay. Okay. So if you are an artist, a producer, a songwriter, or just a new music exec who wants to get started in this business and build your record or publishing company in the next 60 days, I got you covered without having to search all over the internet through all the misinformation. It's called the 60-Day Record Label Course, and this will help you build that record and publishing company very swiftly, because we're going to start with a strong LLC foundation to support all of this for years to come. You'll learn how to play the game via contract, and you'll be set up to collect domestic and international publishing royalties without the middleman taking 15%. Now, what's covered is BMI, ASCAP, Sound Exchange, all this stuff you see here, all in the course, plus way more than what I'm talking about and what you see on the screen. Click the link below to get started today. But if this is your first time watching the channel, grab the free stuff, 10 major steps to increase your record label's profits. A free split sheet is included with that download, plus more in that download. Now, let's break it down. Learning the mechanics of this business via contracts helps you navigate way faster than the guy who's trying to get in the game fast, cheap, and easy. It helps avoid the time wasters, the nobodies, and the clout chasers. That's why in the 60-Day Record Label course, I put the contracts in there, and I have hours of walkthrough in that. Now, if you're starting a cookie business, you would not start it fast, easy, and cheap. So why do you think heavy progress will be made fast, easily, and cheaply in this business? It's not. So you want to learn where the screw points are, or what are potential points of you being screwed, or at least you want to be aware of it. All right. Not learning the mechanics of this business via contracts puts you deep in the sauce. And the sauce causes you to take a heavy beating versus taking a lighter beating. It also causes you to waste time with all the nobodies and clout chasers. So if your goal is to grow, why would you waste time doing it? You see what I'm saying? Learn how to read these contracts. I got everything included in the course. So if you were trying to avoid getting bent over a desk, you now have 7 tips that will actually help you out and avoid the action of that actually happening. You want to know more about these splits or the percentages involved with that? Take a look at this video and it should help you out. Music Money Makers, if you make music, you should always make money. Log on to musicmoneymakeover.com, jump into the 60-Day Record Label course beneath this video, book a call there, download the free stuff right beneath this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.